Try to imagine for a moment a situation that sounds almost unbelievable to a modern person. In your yard, there is a plant that no one sows every spring. No one covers, no one transplants, no one starts the season, and yet year after year it provides food for the kitchen. Not like a lucky harvest of a particular summer, but as something constant, as if the house suddenly had another source of food that lives its own life and doesn't require yearly attention. Most people at this point assume we're talking about a fruit tree, or at most a berry bush, but here I am talking about a spice and vegetable ingredient that, in theory, should be the most capricious type of plant, because spices almost always come from warm regions and struggle in cold climates. And this is where the most interesting part begins. We are so used to the annual cycle of a garden that we hardly notice how artificial it is. In spring, we buy seeds, set up a little greenhouse on the windowsill, fret over every cold snap. In summer, we water, protect, and fertilize. In autumn, we harvest. And in winter, we return to the store. In essence, this is not living food near the house, but a seasonal project that must be restarted every year. And this is why so many adults eventually give up gardening, not because of the plants themselves, but because of the endless cycle of restarting. But if you look at traditional yards in some East Asian countries, the picture is completely different. There, a garden is often inseparable from the house itself, because part of the food grows not in beds, but directly in everyday spaces, along paths, by walls, under trees, in places that a Western gardener would usually consider just shade and wasted space. The reason is simple. Many of these plants were originally chosen not for maximum yield in a single summer, but to live alongside humans for years, gradually providing food without annual planting. This is not a farmer's approach, but a domestic, almost homegrown logic, where the plant becomes something like a quiet neighbor, occasionally visited with a knife and a bowl. Among these plants, there is one particularly curious example. It looks modest, doesn't produce large fruits, cannot be packed into boxes, and shipped thousands of kilometers. And if you pass by, most people assume it's ornamental greenery. Yet in Japan, it has been known for centuries and is so familiar that no enthusiastic articles are written about it. It has simply always been part of the kitchen. I'm talking about Myoga, the Japanese relative of ginger. But it's important to clarify right away, its value is not in the root, as a Westerner might expect. The most interesting part is hidden right at the soil surface. At the end of summer, dense, elongated buds begin to emerge directly from the ground at the plant's base, pinkish cream, like small closed flowers that seem to have grown without stems. They are harvested while still young, thinly sliced, and added to rice, cold noodles, fish, or soups. The taste is not pungent like regular ginger, but refreshing, enhancing the aroma of the dish. It is used not as a spicy seasoning, but as a finishing touch, almost like fresh herbs, but with a subtly spicy character. And here comes a detail that changes everything. Myoga is rarely cultivated specifically each year. Once planted, it returns on its own. In winter, the plant disappears completely, and the plot looks empty, as if nothing had ever grown there. Yet in spring, shoots emerge from the same spot again. No seedlings, no sowing, no buying. After a few years, the clump expands. After several more, it becomes stable, and people no longer think of it as a seasonal crop. It is simply part of the yard, like a bush, like a path, like a tree, only edible. In Japanese homes, it is often planted exactly where a Western gardener wouldn't even try to grow vegetables, under a maple, on the north side of the house, in diffuse shade where typical beds wouldn't thrive. At that moment, you begin to understand that the point is not a miracle plant, but a different logic of food. Western gardening has historically focused on maximum yield in a short time, which is why we choose crops that grow fast and abundantly, but require yearly restarts. Myoga works differently. It doesn't try to impress with a single season's quantity. It gradually supplies the kitchen over the years. Not a ton per season, but a little constantly. Why is it so little known in North America and Europe, even though the plant can withstand cold winters? The reason is far more mundane than any sensation. Myoga flower buds are delicate and aromatic only when fresh. They do not tolerate long transportation or storage well, making it nearly impossible to turn them into a mass-market supermarket product. It is perfect food for one's own plot, but inconvenient for long supply chains. That is why it never became part of the industrial vegetable market and remains mostly where it can be picked and immediately taken to the kitchen. And here lies the main twist. We are used to thinking of food as something bought or produced through seasonal labor, but there is an intermediate mode where food appears not because of the current year's effort, but thanks to a decision made once, long ago, to let the plants settle nearby. Imagine a corner of your yard where you don't return every spring with seed packets. Don't worry about the weather. Don't make planting plans. But at the end of summer, you still go there and bring back a fresh, fragrant ingredient. Not the result of this season, but the result of years of the plant's presence in your life. When people first encounter Myoga, they are surprised not so much by the taste, but by the feeling. Suddenly, a garden doesn't have to be an annual task. It can be a long-term system where part of the food simply lives alongside you. In the next part, we will explore what happens a few years after planting, how it behaves in a real garden, and why encountering such perennials often changes a person's relationship to the entire plot, far more profoundly than any new tomato variety ever could. Now let's take a look at what happens when someone decides to plant Myoga in their yard. The first thing that strikes you is the simplicity. You take a few rhizomes, put them in the ground, choose a shady spot, without worrying too much about the soil, and walk away. No greenhouses, no fertilizers, no complex watering schedules are needed. Each year, the plant slowly but steadily expands its presence. In the first years, growth may be modest, a few shoots and a few flower buds. But it is precisely this gradual, almost imperceptible progress that creates a sense of true magic. The plant grows without reminders, without pressure, almost as if it decided, I am here and I will stay. By the second year, more shoots appear, and by the third year, the plot already becomes a full-fledged source of food. You begin to understand that the gardener's role is not to constantly recreate everything, but to observe, guide, and use what is already growing. Myoga gradually transforms the plot into a living organism that works for you on its own. And this feeling is so unusual for a Western person that it can genuinely surprise. Yes, it turns out a garden doesn't have to be a daily project, but can be a constant source of fresh produce. But it's not just convenience that makes it unique. The taste of Myoga shoots and flower buds opens up an entirely new world. The shoots are like asparagus with a subtle ginger spice. They are fresh, crunchy, suitable for salads, stir-fries, or light soups. The flower buds are a true gem of Japanese cuisine. They are added to sushi, miso soups, pickled in vinegar, or served with cold noodles. They combine delicate texture with depth of aroma, yet require no special storage conditions. Freshness and proper timing of harvest are enough. Each bud is like a tiny culinary accent, turning an ordinary dish into something completely new. From the very beginning, you can experiment with the plant. You leave half of the shoots so they continue to nourish the rhizomes and harvest the rest. All the flower buds are harvested. The more you take, the more actively the plant responds with growth. After 5 years, a single planting turns into several plants, and the plot begins to expand on its own without extra effort. You realize that this is not just a plant, but an entire system that requires minimal intervention yet delivers consistent results. And here lies the philosophical value of Myoga. Unlike familiar annuals that require constant attention, each plant reminds you that food can be part of a sustainable system, rather than a constant worry. You are no longer dependent on stores, on the whims of one season's weather, or on starting the garden anew every year. Instead, you have a living system that regenerates itself, grows, and shares its produce with you. This simple logic gradually changes your relationship with gardening and food as a whole. If you try to imagine it in practice, Myoga becomes part of everyday life. In the morning, you step into the yard to cut shoots for breakfast. During the day, you add a few flower buds to lunch. In the evening, you pick the remaining buds for dinner. You don't do this on a schedule or out of obligation. It's because the plant is already part of your yard, and its products naturally become part of your diet. There is no stress, no rush, but there is a sense of true freshness and closeness to nature that an ordinary annual garden almost never provides. Moreover, this plant creates unique opportunities for sharing and building sustainable communities. Since Myoga propagates on its own, it is easy to divide and give to friends or neighbors. A plant planted once gradually becomes several clumps, which can be shared further, and entire neighborhoods slowly turn into resilient mini gardens without constant intervention. People share not just rhizomes, but experiences, observations, and recipes. Each new division becomes a small chain of knowledge, passed from person to person. For an adult audience, this has particular significance. Myoga does not require huge investments, does not cause anxiety over the harvest, does not depend on stores, and does not require buying seeds every year. It teaches respect for time and space, showing that food can be reliable and predictable, and that growing it can be a source of pleasure rather than obligation. And this is what transforms a simple plant into a true philosophy of nourishment. Not speed, not volume, but sustainability, consistency, and quality. Ultimately, Myoga demonstrates that a garden can be not a place of struggle against nature, but a partnership with it. You do not control the plant. You live alongside it, observe, guide, but do not micromanage every movement. And after several years, the effect is felt not only in the kitchen, but in the mind. There is calm, confidence in tomorrow, and joy in knowing that part of your diet is not a store product, but a living organism that develops with you. This is what makes it not just interesting or useful, but incredibly inspiring for anyone looking to rethink their relationship with food and gardening.